Good morning, my name is Davin Sessa. I've been with this group for about 2 years now. Thank you to Rick, Julia, Sammy, Nancy, and then all of your great company. I'm also your acting and current secretary. I'm your resident specialist here when it comes to protecting your finances. So some of the tools that I end up using to help people do that throughout their planning are a lot of insurance products, so life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance. I also help teach people how to save on a regular and ongoing basis. That one sounds like a no-brainer, but I think if you talk amongst your own peers or examine some of your own life circumstances, you've seen that saving on a regular and ongoing basis is not always easy because bills seem to just pop up all the time, most of the time at the most inconvenient times. Right? So we teach people how to do that diligently and create discipline in that area. It does matter. In the past, when I've done some of these spotlights, I feel like I've done a presentation of some sort where I'm either drawing or doing some kind of slideshow, and I've chosen to do a different direction today. Instead of doing a presentation per se, I want to invite everyone to have kind of an open dialogue and more of a conversation with us. Because there's some things that I'm interested of hearing some feedback from you guys. If anyone, most of you guys have done some kind of spotlight before, some of you maybe haven't. Leading up to your spotlight, I don't know if this has happened to you, but it always happens to me. I'm wondering, what the heck should I talk about this time? And I feel that the topic tends to find me, actually. And so interestingly, over this past weekend, I was speaking with someone, and some things that I had been researching popped up in conversation. I did not bring it up. And the topic is something that I think that everyone could deal with, all ages, all professions, doesn't matter where you live. And that topic, this is the clue. Anyone have a clue what the topic might be? The topic is stress, right? Who's dealt with stress? Teresa has a lovely crocheted scarf. Why do you have that?
Because that's how I manage my stress. I crochet.
Right? So I think it's highly important to have a way to deal with and manage your stress. Everyone needs different outlets. Hobbies are really, really helpful. For those who know me or maybe even just connected with me on social media, you know that I'm pretty active in martial arts. I like to teach it and practice it, and I like hiking, which I went on a phenomenal hike this past weekend. I encourage everyone to find their own outlets. But some of that sparked thoughts for myself and questions. What do you think some of the top, we all have to deal with stress, so what do you think some of the top stress factors or stress events are?
Money.
Here's why I want to open it up.
Money.
Paulo said this. Okay, money. Anything else? Health.
Relationships.
Relationships.
Children.
Kids.
Okay, I hear that one.
At work.
Right? So depending on whatever Google site you land on, right, there'll be a plethora of different events or factors that pop in. But I want to say the top 10 are probably going to be populated on most sites, and maybe the order will be juggled around. Is there a way to pop that thing on there? Right, so I went on a lot of stuff. I don't know if you're able to see this. Scroll to the top. But so here's the first one, and a lot of what you said is on here, right? Death of a spouse. I found, here's the top 5 I found across a bunch, was death of a loved one. So we assume that's a spouse also. Getting divorced, getting married, entering retirement, and then having an illness or injury, or having to deal with someone who has an illness or injury, being that you have to take care of them. I think that all of these have a financial aspect to them, right? And Paulo, that goes with this, right? So, according to the American Psychological Association, that I found in this article, 10 most stressful life events, they reported that 76% of Americans say that money is a major cause of stress. Right? Now, some of you, and maybe all of us, have had an element of stress related to money before. The reason I think it's such a big, important topic is because it's not about having a ton of money or not having a lot of money. It's really the stress factor. because stress, especially if you don't have an outlet or a way to relieve that pressure, will lead to more negative effects in all of life, right? I spoke with someone recently who I didn't even know this, and I know the person pretty well, or at least I thought I did, had a bout with apparently like alcoholism. They were having a lot of stress, anxiety, and they turned to drinking too much. I didn't realize that because I wasn't in contact with the person at that particular season of life, but that was a very big surprise to me. Other people turn to other, I would say, negative choices, such as drugs, and worst case scenario, people do actually die from having too much stress. They cannot handle it, and they choose to punch their own clock, and that's it. So stress is a major, major deal. And yes, amongst the biggest ones is tied to financial. And so I look at my role as very important to help people within their planning. Because if I can help people relieve one of the biggest stress factors, which ends up being financial stress, if I can help relieve that, that's one less burden that they have to deal with. And they can focus on just being their own selves and enjoying their own lives. I'm sure there'll be other stresses, but that is a major, major one to address. I said before, a lot of the tools we use end up being, have a holistic planning concept and philosophy, but we do use insurance to mitigate a lot of stress. Most of the times that's kind of the easiest and most cost-efficient way to do that. Rick had a client before, he said, that just passed away. I guarantee the families or friends are going to ask the question, was there any life insurance? It's always asked, right? And the question isn't asked because they want to know, is someone getting a lot of money and they're going to be rich? The question is asked because they want to know if the family is going to be okay and able to continue living. That's it. It has to do with peace and dealing with stress. Because when you don't have enough money to pay your mortgage, or you don't have enough money to put food on the table, that is very stressful and very hard to deal with. So I want to help inject extra peace to people and relieve a lot of that stress. And here's where I'll kind of open the table, if you guys don't mind. I am curious from your guys, so I think we're all kind of like regular folk, let's say, right? A lot of you guys have families. You go to family events, you have peers where you go mix and mingle with, out to dinner or drinks. Like, anytime I'm in Panera Bread, I'll say, I'll read a book or something, I'll spend a little time there. I almost always hear someone else in the background bring up some kind of financial discussion. Like, almost always. And I'm curious if you guys, amongst your regular old peers, do financial discussions pop up, and does the topic of insurance pop up? We got no. Well, you're in the profession. so probably no. No.
It's like politics. No one talks about money.
So I'm actually very curious. So my concern is I think people aren't having conversations that they should be having, and I want to try to uncover why. Right. So I'm not saying that you should have a conversation and then you have to get insurance. I'm curious as to why the conversations aren't actually happening, or, I mean, I think that they might be happening, or I assumed, I might be wrong, I thought they might be happening and people just aren't taking action. Now, amongst your facial expressions and reactions, now I'm curious as to why you think they're not even happening. Because according to a lot of things that I've read, so in related to life insurance, 85% of people in America believe that most people should have life insurance. That's a pretty high percentage. I'm sure it's plus or minus that. But around 50% of people die with zero. Right? So what people are saying and what people are doing are very different. In addition to that 50% who have zero, an additional 20% feel themselves that they don't have enough. Right? So the topic is kind of there, and I'm curious why the topic isn't happening.
I think that it's a topic, like people just, they feel that they don't want to go there because it's stressful to talk about money. They either are embarrassed to reveal struggles that they're having. And if, you know, the mindset around almost everything is, well, if I don't look at it, I don't deal with it, it's not really there.
So ignorance is bliss.
Out of
Ignorance
sight, out of
is
mind.
bliss for sure.
Right, except the reality is not, right?
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I talk to people about their credit, and people are embarrassed when they've made a mistake, or if they're unsure as to whether they're doing the right thing. They're embarrassed to talk to their peers because they think everybody else has it together but me.
Right, and what's the next step?
Okay.
Right.
You don't know who really to turn to.
Okay, that's a huge factor. I'm gonna go to Paolo and then Julie and then cut.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to add a comment. The reason why I am so busy running around setting up trusts when people have an issue or when they've died is because they don't have insurance.
And how
I mean,
stressed are
that's-
they?
It's a mess, and that's why I'm just running around setting up these trusts and slamming assets into trusts because they don't have insurance. And I'm the person, when I'm reading a will, and I ask the question, do they have insurance? And then you get this look around the room like, no, he, she didn't do it. I don't wanna throw shade on the deceased, but the point is, the planning ahead, and I just see like with the family, when they've got that insurance payout, it is tax-free. It is like literally found money, and I recently dealt with an estate case where it was a young person who died untimely, but his person had him so adequately covered, the family is just set up for life, and it's just, you know, the best case scenario.
And again, it's
So-
more of a stress relief
Yes.
than becoming rich. It's not about becoming rich, it's about being able to live. One last comment.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, when it comes to, when it comes to that, I think like the shame around money is one piece of it. But then also, like, okay, well, how do I fix it? It's like, when you have a car, you know, you can take it to the mechanic and they know how to fix that. But there's so many philosophies and there's so many people that do it, and our industry doesn't do a great job of making sure those people are always like qualified. Like, you hear these kids out of college that become financial advisors and it's like a farm. That's scary for people who are out of the business circles because they don't understand that those people don't have the knowledge to help them. So I think that's scary. Like, who do you trust?
Gotcha. So I'll leave you with this, and I'm sorry, I went over time, but we don't have a second presentation. Oh, we do. I'll leave with this. I'm encouraging you guys for yourselves. I could be a very good resource, but you may have your own resource already. I'm just encouraging you guys to open the conversation, right? You may have an advisor. Speak to them. You should speak to them at least once a year to review stuff. At least. You don't have to make any changes, but you should at least have the conversation. And some of your friends may need some encouragement to also have the conversation. It is a huge stress relief. Ignorance sometimes is bliss, but I'm gonna say in this area, you just get kicked in the butt at some point in time, and it's really hard to deal with it. So I want to encourage you to be uplifting, encouraging, and actually relieve a lot of stress. I'm gonna hand out one article that I had written. Well, I didn't write, but I distributed it. And it happened to do, it's my monthly newsletter. Some of you guys may get it. I'm gonna hand this out, and the first article actually happens to do with stress. So that's what I got for you today. Thank you.
And Teresa,